another episode of the Alchemy Sports Performance Podcast. Today we're going to dig in a little bit more into the Beyond the Training. Kyle just got a chance to go see one of our athletes compete this weekend down at the University of Cincinnati, and so we're going to talk a little bit about kind of what that's like for us to see our athletes succeed, to see our athletes excel at the next level, to get a chance to go and be around their accomplishments, and what we're really trying to build when it comes to beyond the training aspect of things within our facilities. So tell me a little bit about your trip down to Cincinnati. What was that like seeing Sam play?
It's pretty awesome, I guess, so first of all, I guess just being, someone that, so he plays at Navy, so, being someone that he would even, think about or be able to, get some tickets for me or whatever to just kind of invite me to the game. Pretty cool feeling, I guess, to just kind of be one of those. Because basically the kids get 2 tickets, right? So he's going out of his way he had probably close to 30 people there. So he's going out of his way to try and figure out how to get some tickets for all of these people. So to be one of those people that he's like, hey, I got some tickets for you, come down to the game so you can watch us play. This is the closest that he's played since he's went to Navy. So that's pretty cool, but just kind of to sit back and just be able to watch these athletes go after the things that they're trying to achieve, and just having conversations with them from when they first came into training, and the things that we would talk about, and then seeing those things progress into what a lot of these guys and girls are achieving now within their sport and just in life in general, and who they're growing up and becoming and different stuff like that is a very rewarding type of thing. It's just it's cool to kind of just sit back and just watch all of that kind of unfold, so I think it's pretty awesome. Obviously, as far as the game wise goes, they didn't get the outcome that they wanted, but I would go to Cincinnati 100 times over to watch him play in a game, regardless if he wins or loses. I don't think that was really that wasn't really the point of it for me. So I think that it was just awesome in general.
I think it's a lot of fun to see our kids grow up. The kids that we worked with, we've got several of our athletes who have become captains. Yeah. We've had several of our athletes go into leadership positions. Obviously, Sam being at the Navy Academy, that's a huge thing, in and of itself, not let alone being a football athlete there, but being in the Naval Academy, that's just an incredible opportunity and incredible, testament to who he is. Yeah. But, we look at these young athletes, and they're, when they choose to include us, like you said, it's just a special thing. You were on the phone the other day with Tyler, and he goes, yeah, if we make the MAC championship, we'll get you some tickets, you can come watch a game. Just to have that kind of in his mind to say, look, when we get to this point, I want to get you guys a chance to come see us play. It means a lot to us, and so when we think about what we're trying to build and what we're trying to do, when we make that connection that goes beyond the sport, I think that says a lot about what we're doing and why we're doing it. Right. One of our high school athletes just interviewed both of us last week. I think that was pretty cool. She's got a senior project coming up, and she chose us as 2 of the interviewees, and I think that again, it speaks to what we're doing. It speaks to that connection. When you had that opportunity to sit down with her, what was it like for you to have, her picking your brain and going into some of those questions for you?
I think, like you said, it's a pretty cool experience for her to, to think of us, to want to help her with it. This is a pretty big, senior project for her in school, for her to think about, I'm going to do this project, and in order for me to get this project done, or for it to be a certain portion of my senior year grade or whatever, I want to make sure that I include these guys into my project, and just I guess it's kind of one of those full circle type of moments. You do, or we have all of these ideas and different things like that inside of our heads and different stuff like that. But I guess we could be doing all of this and nobody really cares about it, you know, at the end of the day. But for a lot of the stuff that we do here to resonate enough with her for her to be like, hey, I want to make sure that that I'm interviewing you guys, or you know, she looks highly enough to us for like that sort of thing, for us to be a part of her senior project, or for her to want to interview us for that is pretty cool, you know. So yeah. And then I think a lot of the questions that she was asking in her project kind of pertain to this place, and like how, you know, it was kind of more so like, why do you guys do this? Why do you guys do that? Why is this important to you? Like that sort of thing. So it wasn't, you know, it was, I guess, good questions that were meaningful questions that, you know, she was like, I know these things, and I want to have you elaborate on them more so, as far as like why you guys do the things that you do, and like that. I guess that was pretty cool.
Yeah, and it was interesting too, because she asked me more questions about like the softball side of things, obviously having been her coach there, and how I prepare and what my thoughts were when I played baseball, and some of those things. And I think that's another testament to her, is that she's taken this opportunity to learn and be curious about a number of different things. And so, you know, when it comes down to it, when we think about what we're doing here and we think about how we're trying to help these young athletes, obviously we want to see them succeed, and she gets to sign on Wednesday, which is awesome. But beyond their athletic success, is there a moment that stands out to you that you look back on and you go, man, I am an extremely proud coach right now? Is there something that you can think of?
Most of those, I would say most of those things have nothing to do with the sport in itself. I want, for, I guess, like the goal for us is to get kids that want to be more than just an athlete, and like working on those things, so that I think when you have kids that do that, like, right, you know, it's one thing to go to college and play a sport. It's another thing to be a team captain. It's another thing to be involved in programs within your school that are outside of sport, right? So that are actually making an impact in the community, or making an impact in the students of the university, and like trying to make a change for those things, or pursuing something outside of sports or whatever, you know. So like obviously our guy Sam at the Naval Academy, that's a huge thing, right? Like that's a different breed of a kid. Like that's a different commitment level than a college athlete has, right? Dwayne, team captain, huge into just like doing things for Duke and the university and the community, and you know, rushing his fraternity, and a lot of just like trying to make change within the community and be a voice for a lot of things, you know, that I think is pretty cool. And just seeing the way that like these kids, when I first met them, and how they were, you know, either you meet them when they're young in high school, or obviously some kids before that, but some kids you meet them when they're young in high school, or we get kids that will come in and they are seniors in high school about to transition into college. And then like I think that we had a big core group like that, and to see them from when I first met them as you know, late into their senior year or about to go into college, and where they are now, it's just like that. I think those are the things for me that's, yeah, you always been a good person, always been a good kid, but to see you kind of like grow and become someone that like you're like maturing in like the way that you go about your business, and the way that you handle things as far as the sport, but also school and adversity, and like just life, and like way that life has moved along for you. Like those are the moments that, you know, like that's like just the person that you have become is like a proud type of thing, to know that you didn't just make it to college and then things didn't work out right away and you decided to do XYZ thing, or you made it to college, but kind of, you know, the hardships and different things like that kind of got to you and it didn't pan out the way that it did, right? So like it's good to see, like we've got kids that are in their third year now or whatever, and they've had, with COVID and all of that, like they've had so much just crazy stuff that like I've never experienced in my entire life, you know. Or to go and sit behind a seventh year senior who's damn near as old as I am right now, still playing college sports. And a lot of kids nowadays would just bang out and they would leave. They would go somewhere else because like I didn't get what I wanted right away. And to see some of our guys just like sit and buy into the process and wait until their time. And now you wait 3 years and you work your ass off the entire time. And now you're a junior and you're, you know, top 50 in the country, or you're just like you're having great things come to you and you're having success now. You've had kids that wanted to transfer or whatever, and then we've been in the position to be able to talk to them and kind of like, I guess in a sense, help them through that type of where they were stuck mentally. They see it through. They don't transfer. They wait until their third year. Now they're having all of the success, and like everything for the sports wise and different stuff like that is coming to them exactly how they wanted it to come about. I think that is like, those are cool things that we have that are happening, or just like our girl athletes that like have the confidence to like go to college and play a sport. I think that for females especially, it's like one of those things that they're like, I don't know that I want to take on that workload, or you know, take on that accountability, that responsibility to do that, or they just don't have the confidence in themselves to think that they're good enough to play a sport in college. I think that building them up is a goal for sure of ours to, like, some of the girl athletes or women athletes that we have come in the facility are some of the best athletes I've ever seen, or some of just like they're just great people, you know, and like, but something about that, and they still struggle with that self-confidence or that identity, or do I want to go to college and play a sport, right? So having our girl athletes go and play in college is huge. Having, like, Kayla's got her jewelry business and like her little side business, and like I think that's cool to have that confidence to kind of like branch out and do something on your own and create and be a creative person that is putting things together for people to either love it or hate it type of thing, but continuing to put herself out there and kind of like moving in that direction is pretty cool. And just the work ethic that she has to put into that at a young age, to have a business on top of going to school and playing lacrosse and different stuff like that, I think is awesome. And just like a lot of what these kids are doing outside of the sport itself is just like, those are the types of things I think that I get the happiest about.
Yeah, I think for me it's the process stuff, not the outcomes. I'm not. Right. Whether you win or lose, whether you succeed or fail, that's part of being an athlete. You know, you're not always going to win. You're not always going to be successful, but watching them become something new. You know, I went to the district finals game for Pick Central for volleyball, and they dropped the first 2 sets. And in the past, I'd see them crumble and fall apart, and I found myself like literally tearing up watching them battle back to take it to a 5th set, because you just saw a lot of the things we talked about, a lot of things we preached about being tough, about staying together, about finding joy in the tough moments, and they did all that, and they kept playing each point for what it was, and the next thing you know, they're in a set 5.
Yep.
And they're in a position to win a district title. Now, it didn't obviously go their way, and again, like you said before, and like we'll probably say again, is the outcome didn't matter. I was beyond proud to watch that level of just fight. Yeah. And that confidence to know that no matter how bad a situation is, you're still in it and you still have an opportunity, I think will serve them well beyond their playing days. And it's those lessons and it's those things that when they start to realize like what I've gained from my time in the weight room, my time as an athlete, my time learning in these different environments, that speaks to the things that I just get blown away by. You know, when they come home and they talk about a situation that came up and it's a lesson that we talked about in here, and they're like, man, I feel like it finally makes sense. I'm like, yeah, awesome. That's what we're talking about. That's what we're all here for. And that's the stuff that when they're done playing sports, because let's be honest, sports ends. No matter how long you get to play, we're still all relatively young when sports are over. So how can we apply those lessons? How can we know that they're going to be in a position to be successful after? And, you know, guys like Sam, Dwayne, Anna, Cammie, Zoe, they're going to be leaders.
Yep.
And you know that they're going to be in a position where they'll succeed well beyond their sports career, well beyond the time that they're playing. And I think that's why we put so much pressure on the homework side, the being a leader side, the community aspect side, the little things that don't just apply to the training,
right,
and don't always necessarily make sense to them at the moment. You know, they're like, why do you care about my grades? Why do you care about, you know, study tables? Why do you care about my homecoming date?
Right,
you know,
what I'm
like,
doing.
What am I doing on the weekend? So much, You know, like they don't understand like that aspect of it is all of those decisions matter, all of those things matter, and over time, it determines who you become.
Yeah, I think that I guess a big thing for me is, or just in general, is letting these kids know that they aren't necessarily the sport that they play, right? So like that is not their identity, and having some sort of identity outside of the sport, I think, is a huge thing. And just understanding that sports will open up doors for you, and it can help you in life, but it doesn't have to be your life, or it doesn't have to be what you identify as. And using the lessons from sports, or the connections that sports can help you with, and different stuff like that, using those to help you in life, because eventually sports is going to be over. And I definitely think too that there's a large population of people that for whatever reason, unfortunately, they only identify as being that sport, or they don't necessarily care for us to care about their character and their things that they're doing outside of the sport, and their grades and different stuff like that. Like, I don't think that everyone wants us to care, right, or whatever. And I think that obviously sometimes it seems like there's a little bit of like back and forth there with certain kids and different things like that. And I think that hopefully, like, I guess that's my hope, is that eventually one day they'll be like, damn, you know, Kyle didn't really have to care about my grades or what I was doing outside, or, you know, that hopefully, you know, someday that it will click to them and they'll just understand that, I guess, where we're coming from on that sort of thing. Because I think that obviously it doesn't always seem like it goes the way that we want it to, or something like that. But I think at the end of the day, in that same sense, like, I'm looking for people that want someone to care about that sort of thing, right? They may not have the best grades, or they may not have the best things going on in life outside of here or whatever, but I think that getting to the point of where, like, okay, yeah, I understand where you're coming from, or I guess, like, you know, we can at least have that understanding with the kids and the parents and different stuff like that, because I do think that those things are important. And I don't want to be the person that just is just a trainer that's like, hey, yeah, sure, I'll work with you and we can train and you'll get better athletically, yeah, but like, I don't care about the other stuff. I want to be the person that can help someone get better athletically, but can also help them see the bigger picture, because I think those are important things that I didn't understand at first either, when I was young into my athletic career, or just younger in general. Like, I wasn't a good student when I was in high school.
Yeah.
I didn't care about a lot of stuff too, because I was a football kid. I thought for sure that I was going D1, and the kids that I was hanging around with on my team as well, we all thought that we were D1 kids, and like, we all kind of had the same type of mentality of like, okay, well, I'm good at football, so I can just kind of do whatever, and I can get by with different stuff, you know. And I wasn't a good student, so a lot of times too is like, I'm not trying to push grades on you or taking care of things outside of here in the sport itself, because I just want to be like a dickhead or whatever, you know, or just bitch and complain at you or whatever, you know what I'm saying? But like, I'm coming from a place of experience. Like, this is kind of what I messed up on. Like, I didn't take my grades seriously when I was in high school. I didn't get a good ACT score. I didn't, I just didn't take things seriously because I thought that because I was decent at football, and I definitely, looking back on it, thought that I was better at football than I actually was when I was in high school. But I thought that because I was good at football that I could, not care about school, and oh well, I'm going to play college and football, or I'm going to play football in college, so like I don't have to care about the studies and different stuff like that. It wasn't until I went to college and things didn't really pan out the way that I wanted them to, and like I went to a small Division II school, so like already obviously I didn't go D1. Went to a small Division II school, and then I didn't like it whatsoever. So there was a moment in time where I'm like, one, I'm transferring because I don't want to stay here. And I didn't think that I was going to play football anymore. So that was, once I went and I transferred to where I ended up going, that was where I started to take school more seriously, because now I'm like, well, I'm not getting a scholarship and my parents are helping me through college. So I want to make sure that if my dad is busting his ass to make this money for me to go to college, that I'm not letting him down and not just being here, just existing kind of. So I think that was when school became more important to me. And then when I tried to walk on to the football team, like obviously like they're pushing a little bit more so for grades and different stuff like that, and they had like study tables for us and different things. And when I made the team, I was a little bit older then. So they required all freshmen and transfers and that sort of thing to go to study tables for that first year. And I was in study tables with younger kids, and being an older kid, I could see, even though I was like a year older than some of these kids, I could just see where I'm like, okay, like there's one lady, her name is Belkis. She was our academic coordinator. And yes, it was a D1 school, but it was a smaller D1 school, so we had one person on staff as our academic coordinator trying to help coordinate academics for 30 kids or whatever it was, like something crazy. And there was this one lady, and she worked her ass off for sure. She was great. That's why she ended up leaving and going somewhere else. She left us and went to Ohio State. She was great at her job, but just some of the things that these kids like put her through, it was basically like she had to hold their hand throughout this whole process. And like being angry at her for getting bad grades, or being angry at her for not reminding them that they had a final and different stuff like that. So I think that was another thing too, where I was like, let me not put any more pressure and work into this lady and what she's having to go through. So let me not be one of these guys that's making her job even harder. So I think that like those are experience types of things that I'm like, I want to make sure that these kids get good grades so that they don't have to have that same sort of process, right? Because a lot of kids would be like, well, did you get all A's in school when you're in high school and different stuff like that? And I'm like, no, I didn't. Like that's why I want to make sure that you're getting good grades or getting all A's in school. Like it's not a me versus you type of thing. Like I'm not trying to compare myself to you whatsoever. I want you to be better than me. Like that's the whole point about all of this stuff.
Yeah, I think a big part of our coaching is trying to teach from the mistakes that we've had.
Yes.
And trying to at least prepare them for the things that are going to occur. Because you can't stop some of the things that we dealt with from happening to these young athletes. They're going to have to go through that process on their own. That's part of being off on college and being on your own, doing those things. Like learning how to be a student while you're in season, you can't teach that. You only have to experience that. And that was one of the big wake-ups for me, because I got decent grades in high school because I was smart enough to not have to do anything and I could get good grades. But I never applied myself. I never learned how to study. I never learned how to prepare and to do things. And so when I went off to college in that first year, spring came around, and I don't know how many people understand like how baseball works, but especially at a small school, you bus everywhere. And my school in Youngstown, we played Dayton, Chicago, Milwaukee, Indiana, and Butler. Like those aren't short trips. Like you're not just like driving there and driving home. It's like the shortest trip was Cleveland State, which we only played them once a year. until they stop. But then Detroit's like 5 hours from there. Milwaukee and Chicago are 6 to 7. You know, Indiana 6. Dayton is 4 because you got to get to Columbus and then go across. Like, we're on the bus forever. I wasn't a study guy, so on the bus I never studied. And so after my freshman year in season, I get back, I get my grades, and it's like a 1.76. I'm like, well, shit, I'm not going to be able to play ball next year if I don't figure some things out. And, you know, again, thankfully, I worked through some things. I figured some stuff out. But it definitely, that moment, and then not being a good studier and not being good at understanding how to manage my time when I was in college made academics a lot harder than it should have been. And I ended up graduating, I think, just under a 3.0, maybe like a 2.9 something. But what's interesting is then when I went back to school to get my master's, because I didn't get a 3.0, I had to go through all these extra hoops and all these extra things. And I ended up getting my master's with a 4.0 because I had learned how to be, I guess, an adult and apply my time better and manage my time better and use the skills that I had picked up over time to study. And it made me realize like what I missed out on because I didn't use that same principles that I know now back then. And that's my hope, is that maybe I can make an impact so that some kid doesn't have to get a 2.9 in college. They can get their 3.5. So if they decide to go get their master's, there's less hoops to jump through because they figured out a few things. And you know, I think that's one of the challenges is learning these things for yourself. And you can't eliminate the learning process for these kids. They're going to have to learn it on their own. But hopefully, if we speak to it and we talk about it and we make it clear that when those moments come up, they go, oh, this is what Kyle was talking about. Oh, this is what Charles was talking about. I think they did this. Let's try this. Or I can call them and go, hey, I'm dealing with that thing you were talking about. You said it was going to happen, and it's happening.
Yeah, I think the most important thing, I guess, overall is being that person that kid can lean on, or making sure that we make that kid, or like we make our relationship with that kid as comfortable as they feel like they can ask us those things, or they can call us when they need help with something or something like that, right? I think that creating that relationship so that that kid doesn't feel like they're just like going through all of this stuff by themselves and alone. I think that is kind of a common theme with kids who are in sports. I think that there's a lot of times where you do feel like you're going through this process by yourself, or that people only care about you for the sport that you play. And a lot of sport in general, or especially college sports, especially big time college sports like football, there's a lot of people that only care about you when you are able to do something for them, right? So it's like a "what have you done for me lately" type of mentality, right? And I think that there are so many challenges and different things to navigate through when you're a young high school kid, especially a kid who wants to go and play in college. Like, you have the recruiting process. And just like navigating through that and feeling like there's a lot of times where coaches are going to make you feel like you are literally untouchable and you're the greatest thing ever. And then it seems like a lot of times once that starts to happen, it can also in the same sense come crashing down, and you're like, well, what happened to this? What happened to that? You know what I'm saying? Like those coaches, once they feel like, oh, that, you know, maybe that kid is not what we want to recruit, or he's not the kid that we thought that he was, you know, skill-wise or whatever, just like that, they'll no communication ever. So when you go on all these visits and different stuff like that, these coaches make you feel like you're on top of the world. And then if they find someone else that they want to fill that position, or you don't end up having the season that you thought that you were going to have or something like that, you know, it can be just as quickly as like that coach, you'll never hear from that coach again, they'll ghost you. And I think that that's the important thing for us, is once again, going back to the person and the individual more so than just the athlete. Those are the kids that we are looking for as well, or like the kids that I want to work with, or I want to know those kids. You know what I'm saying? Like, some kids is just like, it's honestly a pleasure to know that kid. You know what I'm saying? Like it makes me proud of just the things that you're doing and you will do, and a lot of it just doesn't have to do with sports at all. I think that those are the pieces for us too. Like I think a lot of people in our position are looking for those big time kids that they can come in and have them in their facility, training them and different stuff like that, because I think that they, as the trainer or the coach, feel like, oh, this is going to help me.
Yeah, it's going to make my name.
It's going to progress my career along, because this kid is a 4-star or whatever, or this kid's got big time offers. He's going to go somewhere big. If I can attach my name to that kid, then that's going to help me, right? Where I think in the reverse role, right, I'm going to push a kid with however many stars just as much as I'm going to push a kid that doesn't have a single freaking star, or, like, I want to treat everyone the same, right? Because at the end of the day, I think that it boils down to the type of person that you are for me, and making sure that I'm doing the most for that person.
And I think the big thing with that is, because you take that approach, and because we take that approach, a lot of times these kids that are these higher star athletes, these higher recruits, they need just as much help in other areas. They may not need as much help on the athletic side,
right,
but a lot of them have other issues that they need to figure out.
Yeah.
That if you're only in it to attach your name to their success, you're not going to help them have success at the next level.
Right.
Because when you're that type of player, you go to a big time school, which means everybody showing up is you.
Yep.
And if somebody shows up and they're you, but they're more mature and they understand how to work and they understand the process and they understand all these little things, they're already ahead of you, even though athletically you're the same.
Yep.
And I think that's where the service part comes in, and that's where the disservice happens for those people out there, unfortunately, who are looking to attach their name to somebody, that they're just, hey, my kid went off to Alabama, my kid went off to OSU, my kid went off to name a big school.
Yeah.
And that's all I care about, versus I had a conversation with a kid who, they're going off to a big school and they understand that, look, you may have to redshirt a year.
Yep.
You may have to sit a year after that. But if you do this right and you trust the process and you develop these skills, because of who you are athletically, you're going to have an opportunity.
Right.
And like, because we care about them more than just being athletes, because we care about them as their success beyond that, I think we give them a better opportunity to find that eventual success. And it may, like you said, take until you're a junior to get on the field and get some opportunities, and then look, you're starting to shine.
Yep.
You're starting to get some notice. Had you had the different mentality, had a different approach, had the right people in your corner, not necessarily us, had the right people in your corner,
right,
you may not have had that happen. You may not have stuck it out. You may not have been in that situation, because we both know people who have unfortunately transferred 3, 4, 5 times.
Yep.
Can't find a home, can't find a spot. Everything's against them. Everything's wrong. We can't do this, can't do that. At some point, if that's your trajectory, if that's your path, you gotta look in the mirror.
Yep.
There's something else going on. It's not the place at that point. Every place isn't wrong.
Yep.
So, and I think that's a hard challenge. That's a hard conversation. And again, if you don't have somebody who's there to talk to you, who cares about you, to have that tough conversation, it's a lot harder to have that conversation by yourself, to admit, like, look, maybe it's not the place that's the problem.
Right.
And that's a challenge.
I think that, again, I think that boils down to the types of conversations that you are having, or the people, like you said, the people that you do have, that you're around. If the only focus or the only conversation is about the sport, or
how great you're going to be,
right, or the lack of playing time that you're getting, or the way that this is being done to you, or the way that that's being done to you, it's still just kind of, everything revolves around the sport. Mm-hmm. There's nothing more about, like, beyond that. You know what I'm saying? Like, what lessons is this trying to teach you, right? Or how can you make the most out of this situation? Like, it may not be the situation that you want to be in, right? But making that situation worse than what it is, obviously the outcome is not going to be what you want. You know what I'm saying? So instead of being like, okay, I'm not getting any playing time right now, or I'm not playing, or this isn't working out the way that I wanted to, but I'm going to basically do the most that I can for me and my success, and staying in this program, right? Because I got to be here for a certain amount of time anyways, even if it's I'm planning on leaving after the season is over, right? Still got to be there until the season is over. So I might as well make the most out of it, right? I'm going to hit the weight room every day. I'm going to push myself on the practice field to become a better player. I'm going to make sure that my grades are taken care of. I'm going to make sure that I'm doing the little things as far as, hydration, sleep, nutrition, all of those things. just taking that time and using those resources to get something out of it, instead of being like, well, I'm not getting what I want, so then that means that I'm not going to try in these other areas either. And then the whole thing is just like, now, yeah, it's becoming a waste of time, and it's becoming not a good situation whatsoever. Yeah. And I think that there is good that can come of any situation, and things kind of work in a sense as far as like how they should and what they should be anyway, you know. So I think that like those are the important things, instead of putting that pressure on the kid to be like, oh yeah, man, you need to be on the field, you need to be playing, you need to be doing this. It's like, that's some things are just not in our control, right? So let's control the things that we can control and focus on us as a human and as a person, and getting the most out of these experiences, I think, is the biggest piece, right? Because I think that at the end of the day, there's thousands of people that would love to go to X school that you're at and get and have the same experience that you are hating and trying to get away from, right? I think that is something, and kind of just like the way that you kind of process those things, or the process that you have with those experiences, and kind of like the mindset that you are taking into those types of things, I think is important. But I think that's kind of, I guess, the overall thing that we've been talking about basically is just the fact that like a lot of times athletes are lost in this, or the person that the athlete is lost inside of the sport. Yeah. And as much as we are in business and trying to create, you know, better athletes, I think that at the same sense we are equally, if not more, focused on helping kids be the best people that they can be, or, you know, and not to say that I think I'm like the best person ever or anything like that, you know what I'm saying? But, or, you know, there's probably people out there that don't believe in or don't agree with some of the things that I would say on here, or, you know, today, or just in general. And I guess that's fine, I guess, I don't know. But I think that at the end of the day, I think that I can be okay with the fact of knowing that like my goal is to help this kid get better as a person, and I think just showing this kid that there's someone that cares about their well-being, right? Whether you agree with what I have to say, or agree with whatever, you know, the things that I'm saying to a kid as far as my own experiences, or that I think that it's important that they should take time to do their studies, and providing time and a place for them to do that. Some people, they may not care. They may not give a shit at all. I don't know. But I think that the big thing is that I always want to make sure that I let a kid know that I care about him, right? Or because I don't think that inside of this realm, or in sports in general, that there's enough people letting kids know that like they're cared about as a kid, or that people love them, or that they matter as a human, not just because you can play sports well or not.
Because you can drain threes and score touchdowns.
Right. But I think that that's the most important thing. Like I want you to be here, and I want you to know that I care about you, and that you matter to me, and that you are loved inside of this facility, not just because you play sports well or don't. I think that is the big piece.
Right. I think. Yeah, I mean, we're doing the best we can with what we have, and we're trying to do the best we can for those kids, and that's the bottom line. Is that you know, we may not always have the right answer, we may not always do it the right way, but at the end of the day, we do it with the best of intentions, and we try to do it to the best of our abilities. And so, as we wind down, I do have one question. I kind of want to shift a little bit, and I know we don't do what we do to get recognition and to get love and to get thanks, but has there been a moment where one of the athletes or one of our athletes has said or done something to you that made you go, man, I feel really appreciated right now. I feel really loved, and I'm glad that my love is being returned?
I guess, you know, when the kids invite you to come out to the games, I think that's cool. Usually in the summer times or whatever, when we have the kids home for longer periods of time, I try to get everyone together to do like a cookout or whatever, have them over to the house. Like bringing the kids into my world a little bit, you know, I think that's cool. Having kids come home for, like we have kids that come home for fall break, right? So they literally are coming home for like 4 days, and before they have to go right back to school, and they take a little bit of their time out of their day to come and stop in and, you know, talk to us or whatever. Kids come home for a weekend, they stop in, talk to us. Just call, like having kids call you just out of the blue or whatever, or just getting the opportunity to take time and like FaceTime or talk to kids, you know, whatever, when they're at school. Those are cool, you know, just having the kids, I don't know, just having that relationship with the kids that that I think is like that, or being a person that they, you know, that the kids want to talk to, versus like, oh, you know, that's so and so over there, like I don't want them to see me or whatever, you know what I'm saying? So like if I go out to the games, you know, locally around here, like seeing kids and having them come up to me and like I get happy and excited to see them and like want to talk to them. And I think like having that reciprocated back, like when they see you, they're not like, oh shit, let me duck away and not let this person see me. They come, you know, coming over, like smile on their face or whatever. Like that's the type of thing that like makes me happy. Yeah, I don't know, just also letting kids know, like I try to do my best to let the kids know how much I care about them, and, you know, talking with them, texting them, calling them, whatever, you know, shouting them out on Instagram, different stuff like that. And then just kind of like having those kids say to me, you know, thanks for everything that you've done, like thanks for helping me get to this point, or thanks for whatever, you know, getting me as far as you have so far, you know, whatever. Just like telling kids that you love them and different stuff like that, and those kids telling you that they love you as well. Like I think that's huge for me, right? Yeah. I don't really care how much, you know, how many passing yards you have, or how many rushing yards you have, receiving yards, how much tackles, you know, how many tackles, how much playing time you get. Like all of that stuff is great. I'm happy as hell for you. I'm proud for you. But like that's not anything that is super important to me, right? So like when I text a lot of the kids, especially in college and different stuff like that, and I'm asking them how they're doing, a lot of the kids, like they tend to, first things that they say is like, oh, you know, season is going well, like I'm playing this much, I'm doing this much as far as my stat line and different stuff like that. And I'm like, that's cool, like I'm happy for you for sure, but like I want to know, how are you doing? Like how is life? How is school? How is your mental? How's your relationships? Like how are you as a person? Like I'm happy for you that you're getting these, you know, these things accomplished and these stats, and you're getting this playing time and stuff like that. But like that's not, you could also be not playing at all, and I'm still gonna have the same conversation with you, or still tell you, you know, hey, I'm thinking about you, hope you're doing all right, you know, like that sort of thing. Just checking in on you. I think that those are the most important things to me.
I think for me, it's you know, when we're like working with the team and they ask if we're going to come to the game, like, you can tell that they want us there. Yeah. You know, one of the most humbling moments for me is going to be on Wednesday. Logan asked me to speak at her signing day. You know, we've been asked to come to a lot of signing days, which is awesome. I love being a part of that because that's such a special moment. You've worked super hard to get to this, but to actually be able to share some stories and talk about one of our athletes at signing day, one is really nerve-wracking, so that's going to be a little bit different, but also it's just one of those moments that you go, man, it's awesome to feel like I've made an impact enough that they want to share that moment. Yep. You know, so the text that said, you know, the next day where they had a big game and they text and say, hey man, I did it, I did this. To think that I'm on the list of people they want to share their success with, or if they have a problem they want to share that problem with, those are the things that matter to me. Is you know, we got that text from Dwayne when we were heading up, say how much he loves us, he appreciates us, and like those are the moments that impact, that know that I'm making an impact beyond just, like you said, the success on the field. Because when they want to share their life experiences with us, they want to share their stories, they want to talk about life, they want to talk about school, they want to talk about their love life, their all the things that are going on that are beyond sports, and they want to share those experiences with us, then you know, I feel like we've definitely made an impact at that point. We've made an impression, and they want us to be a part and be included in that. And so those are the things for me that really, I feel like without being told thanks, I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. Yeah. You know, because again, like we don't do it for the accolades, we don't do it for the thank yous, but to know that we're making an impact enough that they want to share the big experiences, the big moments with us, that speaks volumes.
Yeah.
And that's the, hey, are you coming to the game? Or are you going to be here? Are you going to do this? I want you to be here for that, or I want to invite you to the game this weekend, or whatever it may be. That's a huge thing, and that's awesome, and that's kind of that's what keeps me wanting to make those impacts, because just one kid saying, "Hey, I figured it out. I got it right today."
Yeah.
Awesome. Let's do it again tomorrow.
Right. That everlasting impact, I think, is really truly why we do what we do. I think because I think obviously, like, going back to that, is like we definitely care about the training, and I think that we have great training, and we're providing great training for the kids that come in here. But even beyond that, like, every kid that comes in here, like, I want to have that connection with them, or ask them how their day is going, how things are going, how's school going, how's at home going, how's your friendships, how's your relationships, different stuff like that, and just getting to know the kids. It's like we spend so much time with all of these kids. Like, these kids literally, like, a lot of these kids, especially as you get into, you've been around here for longer, like, obviously, like, we have that connection, we have that loyalty, that you're bought into what we're doing here, which is great. And then, like, once you have, like, the college kids, once they start to get older, like, a lot of these kids are like family, you know what I'm saying? Like, these kids are like my friends. Like, I spend more time with them than I do my other friends or my buddies or whatever, like, a lot. I see them on a more frequent basis than I see a lot of other people that I consider my friends, or like, that sort of thing. So it's like just having conversations with the kids, and like doing little things, going them to lunch or whatever. Like, I went to the game on Friday. One of the kids, I went and picked him up at his house. Like, we went to the game. It obviously, like, once we got to the game, he was gone in the student section and, like, hanging out with his friends and different stuff like that. But it's just like, I guess to me, like, that's a cool thing to kind of, like, be in the position where the kid is comfortable enough with you, the kid's parents are comfortable enough with you, like, hey, I'm whatever, like, right. you need a ride to the game, like, I'll just swing by over at your house and we can ride together, and then just kind of like having that little bit of time to, like, hang out with the kid and ride in the car and like, the back and forth. The same thing for the Cincinnati game. Like, one of our kids that used to train with us, he's still coming into the facility and different stuff like that. Like, we have created a close enough relationship where, like, he comes into the gym now, and it's kind of like, like a big brother, little brother type of thing, where, he kind of, like, confides in me about certain things that he's working through and dealing with, as far as, life in general, and trying to navigate through that. And, like, once again, not to say that I have all the answers, or that everything that I say is going to be correct, but just, like, having that relationship with him that he feels comfortable enough with me to kind of share those things with me, or like, hey, what do you think about this? Right. And then, like, me and him, he comes into the gym the other day. I'm like, hey, I got 2 tickets to the Navy game that one of the other kids gave to me. Like, do you want to go to the game? Like, I don't have anyone else to go, and I got 2 tickets. And he was like, are you serious? And I'm like, I mean, yeah, like, I got the tickets already. Do you want to go? And he was like, yeah, hell yeah, of course. So we get to hang out for the entire Saturday, and, like,
yeah,
that's like, that to me is like, yeah, I mean, it makes for a long day and different stuff like that, but it's such a rewarding feeling, and such a rewarding day that, like, you're headed down to Cincinnati to see a couple of guys play. One of the kids, actually, that I used to train too, like, he cheerleads for Cincinnati's cheerleading team, but not like, he didn't go to school for that, but, like, just kind of randomly, like, he wanted to keep that competitive spirit alive, and just, like, some of the other stuff that we had talked about and done, and just he was just kind of like, he got approached about it, and he was like, sure, why not? It's going to keep me in good shape. It's going to keep me competing and different things like that. So that was cool to be able to do his thing, and then to go and see Sam play in the game, and then just, like, to have the kid go with me. That he's not a kid anymore. He's about, like, college age, but just to have that guy go with me and, like, hang out with me for the day and different stuff. Like, it was just like, yeah, I'm kind of, like, dead tired at the end of the day, but, like, it was just, like, one of those things. It's kind of like, this is such a rewarding type of feeling, right, that it kind of.
Yeah,
cool.
that just speaks into what we're talking about. We do beyond the training, behind the scenes view, and hopefully, for those of you who are tuning in and sticking with us here, you start to realize, that we're going to talk about the training stuff. We're going to get into that, but we're also we care more about our kids than just what they do in here, lifting wise, what they do on the field, and ultimately we just want to help coaches get better. We want to help players and people get better. And like Kyle said, we may not have all the answers, but we're doing the best we can with what we have. And the best thing I think we can say about what we do is we're not afraid to learn and evolve and admit when we're wrong. And we're going to try to get better each and every day and show up the best we can for everybody who's coming in here, whether you're a player, a coach, a parent, whoever. We want to help you guys navigate the craziness of sports and what it means, because there's a lot of people out there looking to take advantage. There's a lot of people out there who are doing it wrong. I'd like to think we're doing it right, and we're going to continue to go down that path as best we can for as long as we can. So, that's it for today. Kyle, you got anything you want to leave them with, or?
Yeah, I guess if you're a young athlete that's watching this, I guess at the end of the day, I think that the overall consensus of what we're trying to get across is that, I guess, regardless of how good of an athlete you are or how good you are at the sports that you play, just as a person, I think just know that regardless of who you are, if I know you or not, if you're paying attention to this or watching this for whatever reason, just know, if no one else is letting you know, that there's someone that cares about you, that loves you, that you are important as a person and not just as an athlete or what you can do for the sport that you do play. That and if you are a coach that's watching this, lean into your kids a little bit. Make sure that you let them know that you care about them, that you do love them, because I think that being a young athlete is a very hard thing, and it can feel like you're alone and out there by yourself navigating through these things a lot. And sometimes, more times than not, it feels like people only care about you if you are good at the sport that you play, and that the better that you are, the more that people will love you. And I think that the important thing is that regardless, letting them know that they are loved and cared for regardless of how they're playing or the potential that they have to be a big time success or athlete, and just kind of caring for them regardless, I think is kind of the overall big thing that we're trying to get across.
For sure.
So
for sure. Make sure you guys smash that subscribe button so you don't miss any episodes in the future. Leave us some comments below on some topics or things that you have questions about or things you want us to talk about in the future, because as we continue to move through this, we'd love to answer some questions. We'd love to help you guys out. Like I said, it's about you guys. It's not about us. But we spend a lot of time talking, and we figured this is the best way to help kind of get some of the things that we've been discussing in private out there in the world and maybe help a few of you guys. So thanks for tuning in to the Alchemy Sports Performance Podcast. Until next week, guys, we'll see you later.